Casting with Ceri Jones.
This week's guest has achieved so much in his long fly fishing career. Top rod champion in both loch style and river internationals, captained his country, qualified casting instructor, and creating a collection of fly fishing videos, as well as an angling writer. I visit him at his North Wales home and chat with him in his fishing man cave, filled with collections and memories. He retired early from the police force and tells us how he played a part in setting up the Police Fly Fishing Association. Welcome to my chat with Gwilym Hughes. Good to see you again, Gwilym. It's been some time.
Yes, fantastic.
And you got quite a man cave here.
Do you like it?
I love it.
The stuff was all over the place, and I thought to myself, well, I'll use the garage and do it up and put the stuff in. Like,
what I'll do, I'll take pictures later after we have our chat, and we put it in the podcast notes so people can see, because you've got your trophies up there. Not just fishing, is hunting as well with the dogs as well, isn't
That's
it?
right, yeah. Field trials and tests and things with the spaniels. Yeah. I had a good time.
And you've got your desk kitted out there with a vice and your materials at hand.
You see that vice there?
Yeah.
Homemade.
No, you didn't make it, do?
No, Albert Roberts, my friend from Chirk, an engineer, he made it, and he actually, Snowby took it on, but they didn't get the measurements exactly right, and I don't think it went down very well in the end. But yes,
it's a stunning piece of kit, isn't it?
Oh, it is fantastic. I'll show you in a minute. Different things. You used a guitar string, okay, to hold the hook in place.
Was it? Like you've got your fly tie and stuff one side, and then your tackle then the other side, and you've got quite two rods as well, haven't you?
There's a few above your head there. All my rods, the stuff my father made, back in the 60s, early 60s.
Was it?
They're all there. He used hollow fiberglass, and they were in a hell of a state, of course, when I took them on, and I took them to Foxton's, and the young lady there sorted them out for me, new rings and handles and all kinds of stuff.
There's one reel which has caught my eye, and a rod on the other side of the wall, which you just had restored or something. Was it a reel?
Yes, Albert Roberts, my friend from Chirk again, he restored the reel. That was my father's sea rod. He used to use it off the rocks in Porthsgaddan that way, catching wrasse and pollock.
Bamboo it is, isn't it?
Bamboo, yeah. Now, that was actually what they put the carpets in years ago. What they carried carpets with, yeah.
Did it bend? It looks that thick.
No, it needs to be solid, because those wrasse, they would dive into the gwymon, we call it in Welsh.
Oh, right, yeah.
Seaweed.
Yeah.
And to stop them from going there, stiff rod like that, stop them stood dead.
I bet that can tell some stories.
Aye, it can.
Have you ever thought of trying it out again?
Well, it's done there, ready to go.
Yeah.
I put some new rings on it and things, and had the reel done. I will do one day. I will. Yeah. If I can walk again there, like I'm a little bit stiff at the moment after treatment for cancer,
Was it? When did that come about?
I moved here to live, back into where I was brought up, 2015, changed doctor, had a blood test, and he called me back in saying, sorry, Mr. Hughes, you got cancer. Wow. So I ended up in Glenclwyd Hospital 2017 for a number of weeks, and had radiotherapy treatment, and it affected some nerve endings, which affected my walking and standing for any length of time. So it buggered things up for me, really, with the fishing,
So you haven't fished since then?
Well, I have a little bit. I've done a little bit of boat fishing and things, but I'm better now. That's and good. I think hopefully next year, when we get rid of this pandemic, I'll go again.
It's quite a worry now, isn't it, if you get anything like that?
Well, it is really, but I'm glad really I was on my father's shirt tails when I was very young,
Yeah.
And I followed him everywhere where he went, and he was quite a good angler, but simple stuff, you know.
Did he fly fish?
Yes, he did. Oh, absolutely. He would go in a flood up on the River Dwyfor here locally, and he would have a worm on the fly line, on the fly rod, a cast with some lead shots and 2 or 3 worms on it, and he would fish some of the runs for salmon, and then he would go on to another pool. He'd take the cast off and put a fly cast on and put that on. And I remember one thing really sticks with me. I remember him fishing, I must have been 10, 12, something like that.
Yeah.
I remember him fishing, and I was stood quite close to the river, and he cast the fly across, and I could see it coming out of the run, and this sea trout came up, looked at the fly, and sank back down. And my father immediately said, I was standing in the wrong place.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe what he meant, and I had to think he moved his feet and caught the fish on the next cast.
Did he?
So that's the title of the book, The Angle of the Cast.
Right. And when did you write that book then?
It was 2008, I think, 2009, something
Oh,
like that.
right. Because you've done 2 versions, haven't you? One in English and one in Welsh.
And one in Welsh, yeah. I've added a little bit on to the Welsh one. I'll show you photographs and things in a minute.
So they're the tips, so the English people don't know what...
Well, that's right. Don't say anything.
So when you started then yourself, you actually introduced you to fly fishing?
Absolutely. Yeah, all of it, yeah. And so I learned on the River Dwyfor, really. And then Rhys Bryce Jones, who lived in Artro, just round the corner here, he took me to Cefnir Reservoir fishing one day.
Anglesey, isn't it?
Yes, it was a club competition. And that was my first introduction. Of course, I caught nothing. But there's some nice sandwiches, and I sat on the bank and watched everything going on. And in a few years' time, it's just see these lads walking around with Welsh, a bothodyn, we call it in Welsh, the Welsh badge on their blazers, you know. And I was thinking to myself, wow, I've got to have one of those, like. And then I started to fish competitively a little bit. It was to do with Llyn to start with. I got through to qualify to fish in the Welsh final.
Yeah.
And failed miserably. Anyway, a couple of years later, I think it was, after Llyn Brenig had opened, I was a member of the Federation of Brenig Anglers. And unbeknown to me, there was a competition there, the Welsh final. And I got a phone call the night before the match asking me if I would fish for the Federation. Somebody had dropped out. If I remember rightly, it was Mike Plack, Mike Green, David Owen, and myself.
It was a team event,
It was a team event. And just before the end of the day, I went into a corner and got 7 fish, making a total of 11. So I qualified to go to the Welsh final to fish. And I went to Llyn Trawsfynydd. My father actually came to boat for me. And Ken Bowring was the fellow that was
Cardiff.
with. Yes, he was the one that fished with me. And I ended up with 2 small fish. And it was enough. And I qualified to go to Orkney to fish in the international. It was fantastic. In 1983 it was.
Wow.
So it had been a number of years building up to that.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, having been a water bailiff for 12 months when I was 19, I decided to join the police force because the police had more time off than the water bailiff did. And that's the reason I joined the police force. And after a while, of course, the North Wales Police used to run fishing competitions. And of course, Brenig was open and we used to go there. I remember some of the lads who were fantastic fishing. And
to go to these places, I know when I had a radio book, you had a Bantam or something, was it a motorbike?
Yes, I did. This is much earlier, that is.
Oh.
I remember going to shear some sheep in Cwmprysor in Trawsfynydd. And he had a couple of mountain lakes there. And of course, being a young lad, I was starting to court at the same time and took this young lady with me up to the mountain lake fishing one night. thinking, well, I'll have a bit of a hug in the heather, like.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, as soon as the dusk came, the midges came, didn't they? Sent us both off the mountain, no problem. One of those situations, but anyway, there you go.
So when did you join the police?
1969.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Did they have, I know I've spoke to a few people who have been in the police, and they had a fishing club. Did they have it then? Or was it quite
Well, I will explain to you how it happened. There was a detective superintendent, the late Di Jones. He was up in a rugby match in Scotland and got talking to a police sergeant, the late Dave Scougal. And he asked him if any of the Welsh policemen fished. And they said yes, and there was an invite for North Wales to go up to Scotland to fish in Lough Leven. And I was actually one of those that went up with them. It was decided, talking over a pint, that we would actually approach the Police Athletic Association to see if fly fishing could be recognised as a PAA sport. And we had a little bit of help of another officer from Scotland, Arthur Donaldson. And I remember calling a meeting, and we met in Cheshire Police Headquarters. And it was different regions, Police Athletic Association regions. I think there's 7 regions in the country, including Northern Ireland. And we had this meeting, and I remember to make an application and to decide what we were going to do. And I remember calling them all to the window, which overlooks the River Dee. And I said, gentlemen, do you see that bank over there on the other side? Yeah. Do you see that? Look carefully now, the other side there. Yeah. Well, that's where we used to stand years ago and throw stones at you lot. It went down great, really, and it broke the ice, to be honest with you. And anyway, that day I was actually elected secretary for this organisation. And I I wrote the letter, and we actually got the recognition from the Police Athletic Association. So we run regional competitions, and we ran international competition, and then we ran a British final. Now, today, things have changed. All the forces, the army, the fire services, everybody's involved. Which is a marvellous thing, that has come. And I remember the 25th international match at Llynbrennig. Of course, I retired from the police at the time. And I got invited, and David Scougal, the late David Scougal. We both were invited to this match. And we enjoyed ourselves and a few whiskies on the day.
I bet.
We did. Looking at what was going on and things, it was fantastic to see it. We started it off like.
Yeah, there's been quite a few police internationals which have fished the home Lochstyle internationals as well, haven't they?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, like Mark Roberts.
Yeah.
He was one which I chatted with the other day.
Yeah.
But, so, do you fish?
Mark was a great angler. He's a great angler.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
And a great fly tyer.
Yeah.
Nice caster too.
That's right. He can cast a fly, all right.
He can.
Somebody taught him well, I think.
Oh, yes. Say no more. Right. What happened was there were police internationals and the internationals, of course. The first thing that happened was, of course, the international on Loch Harry for me, my first international. Very fortunate. Cliff Harvey was from South Wales. He was the captain. Mock Morgan, of course, was the manager of the team. And we went up to Orkney, and we fished Loch Harry for a week. And I was catching a few fish, and I made quite a few friends there, the geek boatsmen and things. Anyway, I went out on the Wednesday with Cliff himself. What an exponent of top-of-the-water short line fishing.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot that day. And I put it to good use on the Saturday in the international.
Yeah.
Because I come in with 8 fish and won the brown ball.
Oh, that wasn't the first international.
That's right, yes.
You had the brown ball in your first international.
I did.
Wow.
And it was all to do with attention to detail, to be honest with you.
Was
Watching Cliff, what he did that week, and thinking to myself, I wonder, and I copied it, and it worked very well that day, in a wave,
I started off my fishing in the Ospreys, Pontypridd Fishing Club, and he was one of the main people in the club then, and I fished many times with him on a boat.
Yeah.
And he was very much the traditional, the Silver Invictus, and short lining, like you said, with the floating line.
That's right.
And I always remember he used to have this cap, and you couldn't see the material from the flies.
That's right.
Full of flies. And he had rows of medals going round.
Yes, he did.
He used to wear those
You're
medals
right.
on his hat.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. He's still around. I'll have to get in touch with him, because he had a tackle shop after.
He did, yeah. I remember...
Sorry, before you go on now, I noticed actually when you were making me a cup of tea, I was looking on the walls and there's a photograph there with you with a brown bowl. Well, it's not actually the photograph of the brown bowl. You buy a boat with
the fish.
A fish in front of you. And what I liked about it, you've got the flies.
Oh, yes.
In the frame.
Those are the actual flies I had that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Team of 4.
Team of 4, yeah.
Very few people fish a team of 4 now, do they?
I would find it very difficult to fish a team of 4 now myself.
Yeah, I think what happened, because I used to always fish a team of 4, and then what changed that was the Benson and edges. Because I think if I remember right, the rules there was 3 points.
That's right, yeah, it was.
So you just automatically start to get a routine of fishing the 3 flies.
That's right,
then.
yes, we did. So from that international now, I fished 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, and I captained the team in Lough. And after that, I thought I'll have a break now, because there was the police competitions and everything else. And of course, at that time, I'd become a detective. And my police career was moving forward and very busy with different things. So something had to go. Although fishing was very special to me. I remember in the very beginning when I was posted to Wrexham, and how good the fishing is. Anything that I did that was actually affected me mentally in the job, and it does do. Like you go to a fire and you see somebody dead and things like that. And a friend of mine, PC Paul Dodd, PC 702, I remember him well, he took me fishing on into somebody's garden in Abbey Road, and I caught my first grayling there.
Did you?
And by the time I come home, all the problems that I'd seen the night before had gone away. So I used fishing to balance things too, So I didn't stop completely. I stopped the competitive side.
Yeah.
Until 1990. And the World Championship was on the D. And I watched a Polish guy fishing his section. And I'm not sure if he caught 17 or 18 fish in this area. And I watched what he was doing, and I couldn't believe it. And with bugs. And he actually gave me the bugs. I've got them here. The 3 flies that he had on the cast.
Oh,
yeah. And he was the world champion at the end of the competition. And it gives me some little bit of a kick. And they were starting the Rivers Internationals at the time. So then, of course, I went down. I think the trial was on the Taff. And the day that I went down there was a flood. And it was very difficult because of the flood, of course, but in the margins, it was quite clear. And I think altogether during the course of the day, I caught 28 fish on a dry fly and qualified to fish in the Rivers International the following year.
And where was that?
I'm not sure. I think it was in Scotland.
All right.
I think the first one that I fished was in Scotland, if I remember rightly. But anyway, I fished then every year until 1998 in the Rivers International.
Yeah.
Until I won it on the River Tweed in Scotland.
Did you?
Won the international championship. And
So
the Mock Morgan Trophy and the Mike Childs Trophy. During the whole day, I caught, I think it was 17 brown trout on a dry fly. Well, a fly that I created during the week, which I've actually got around, is fished around the world now. The Cul de Cannon, I called it.
Yeah.
There were fish, in practice, there were fish moving in and amongst some ranunculus weed there. And I could get very close to them. Could I catch them? I couldn't do anything with them. And all of a sudden, you'd see a fish coming up, bloop, on the top. And I couldn't understand why. And flies floating down, and they were ignoring them. The blue-winged olive. And I realised in the end that they wanted the fly just hitting the surface film. So when I went back to the hotel that night, I had a word with the lads, and I said, I'm bloody sure, I says, that they want this fly just in the surface film. So I got a curved shank hook, and I actually used primrose tying thread with cobbler's wax, the same as the Greenwood's Glory was dressed.
Yeah.
And I actually used that for the body, deer hair on the back to hold the Cul de Cannon feathers up, so that the fly actual hook was in under the water, under the film, or just in the film, and the rest I could see. Anyway, the next day I went out and tried it and caught 3 fish in 3 casts, took the fly off, of course, and said no more. And I tied them all that night. Everybody had one.
That's a hard thing to do, isn't it? Even though you know
But I did. But I did.
take it off. Yeah.
Yeah, but I did. I didn't want people to see that I was catching fish with it, you know. And
Yeah.
anyway, it worked for me. Wales won the gold medal in Scotland on that year, and I won the individual. Fantastic. And you know something? It'll never leave me. I think it was Franz Grimley, the Scottish lad, that approached me. He said, do you know something? He says, this is history today. What do you mean? He said, you're the first one, he said, ever in the history of these competitions to have won both the Lakes and the Rivers International Championship.
Yeah.
I felt great, really, in one way.
Yeah.
And then I thought, what the hell am I going to do now?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Although it's a right leveler, you know. Fishing is a right leveler, because one day you can be right up there on the top, and then the next day, boom, down the bottom you are. Like.
I think it was around about that time that I came up to Corwin then, around about 1990, I think it was 98, to do the feature for Trout Fisherman on Czech nymphing, because the Czechs really had it then, didn't
That's
they?
right. Oh, absolutely. We were over in the Czech Republic in 96, look.
Right.
And it was a year after, 98 you were up in Corwen. It was a year after I won the Rivers International.
Yeah. And then the guys that come over, they were staying with you or something, with
Yes, they were.
This was a pleasure trip, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, Martin Musil and Jaromir Sram. They'd never caught a salmon. And I was looking after the fishing for Lord Newborough on the Junction Beat and Lady Newborough on the Junction Beat of the D. So I invited them down, and they had a week with me, and you came up and we did the article. And before the end of the week, both had a salmon on a fly.
Did they?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I remember that day when it came up. I think one of them had a fish about £3, which at the time was the biggest Gwilym I'd seen. But the Czechs, they think out of the box. I remember there was a competition, only held once in Mount Juliet. That was a few years ago now. The Worldwide Trout Open. They held this, I think it was last week of September, if I remember right, which I didn't think was going to be a great time to fish the river anyway. It was in flood. It was like the Ganges, and they had anglers from all over the place. And I was covering it, taking photographs, I was.
Yeah.
And these Czech boys won it. And what they did, it was like the Ganges, is brown, and I thought, no one's going to have a fish. But I watched them. Do you know what they did? They were casting out these big sort of heavy bugs, cast it upstream, Then they'd put the arm and the rod in the water. They were fishing on the ledge, so they were fishing 10 foot down. But the rod tip was in the water, and they'd arm up to their shoulder, and they pulled fish. The fish obviously are hugging in the sides, and no one even thought about doing that, you know.
Do you remember when deep nymph fishing started off a floating line? It was a fella, Mickey Bewick. Do you remember?
Oh,
You
yeah,
know
yeah.
Mickey? Or Mickey used to look after Queen Mother Reservoir
Right.
in London.
I've seen him a few times in Ireland.
That
He
you
lives
do.
there now.
That's right. Well, there was a ledge 20 foot down, look. And Mick he was a 20-foot leader with nymphs on, and he was down on the ledge, and he was catching fish after fish.
Was it?
And I remember him in Ireland on Corrib when I was there one day. And he took 3 fish, nice fish, and come in, and nobody else was catching. And I thought, I know what he's doing. He was quite calm that day. Anyway, one day, not long after that, I was over in Ireland and with Frank Riley and a team of lads there fishing, and we had Mike Keedy and Tom Dock, a sportsman, and it was like Costa del Corrib, 90 degrees type of thing.
Oh,
And I said to Frank, come on, take me out to Ballycurran, I think, Ballycurran Bay. And 20 foot deep, he said. I said, yeah, that's the place to go. So I did, and set up with a leader like that. I'd never tried it. Anyway, by lunchtime, I had 4 fish for £12, all on nymphs.
was it?
And when we went in, the lads wouldn't believe me. Mike Keedy and them, but they will remember it. Mike and Tom, they wouldn't believe it. They went and had a look under the sack in the boat, and there were the fish.
Yeah. Is that down Greenfields where you
Yes,
said,
it is.
it?
Yeah, yes, it is. Yeah, fantastic, you know. And that's the first time I think that they saw this kind of fishing.
Yeah. It was all traditional wets for a long time, wasn't
That's right. But you talk about traditional wets now. Go back now to earlier times. There is one fly that I would always use, and that's the Johnny Ver fly. Johnny Ver Thomas, an angler from Newborough in Anglesey. He used Christmas decoration to start with super glue on a hook to fish for the brown trout on Llyn Coron. And I couldn't understand. He was catching fish after fish. And he'd studied the chironomid hatching, coming up and hatching. And you run out of this material. And of course, I then got together with him, and I actually worked on lure flash lurex tinsel and made a rope out of it, which worked perfect for the fly, like. And we call it the Johnny Ver fly. And also, I also made a mix of stuff in the end with John Gross at Lure Flash, and we called it the Welsh Twist.
Was it?
Yes.
I'll have to look at these flies you mentioned now, and that other one you
Yes.
the dry on the river.
Yeah,
I've got some
absolutely.
photographs of them.
Yes, okay, yeah, no problem. Yeah.
There's lots of flies over the years which they come and go, but I remember there was a guy, Sonny Owen, wasn't it? What was the fly he invented
Son Owen.
now?
Aye, he loved the green Peter, didn't he?
Yeah.
But he was fishing in an international match. The story, I actually wrote an article on it. Fishing in an international match in Kew, and the grenadier was hatching. The fish were coming up to his green Peter, but refusing it at the last minute.
Yeah.
So back to the hotel he went, so the story goes. And he cut a piece of red or orange from the carpet in the lounge.
No.
And tied that into the thorax of the green Peter. And that's how the concoction was formed. Yeah.
Was it?
Fantastic fly.
Wow. So there's a carpet now in some hotel in
Don't talk.
in Kew with holes all through it. Like.
There you go. Everybody
Wow.
went there to cut the carpets afterwards, I suppose.
Yeah. It's amazing how somebody can improvise just by the carpet. No one would even think about that.
See, that's attention to detail.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And when you're fishing in these matches, there's no use going into it if you're not going to win, you know.
No.
You've got to have your mind right. You've got to win, and that's it. Like
That's
you
brilliant.
might not, but you've got to go in with that
The
thought.
concoction.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a green Peter with the red throat, isn't it?
Yeah, concoction.
Yeah. Do you tie still now, though? I know you've got your gear there.
I do a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody asked the other day for Corff Melon Bitter, dirty yellow body.
Yeah.
And I remember my father now had the pattern off an angler from Gandalbin mine. And I remember him going up the road here to the farm Drysdecoed and scraping some lichen off the roof of the pigsty and mixing it with water in a pan on the stove here and boiling it with an old army sock, a grey coloured army sock,
Yeah.
and setting the colour with vinegar. Well, there was a stink in the house. We got into terrible trouble with my mother.
Wow.
But I remember it, and I had a little bit of the stuff left that he'd done. And I was asked the other day for these flies, and I've got them here ready to go.
Have you?
Yeah, 4 of them I tied for him.
Sometimes you come across a certain material, you can't duplicate it. And I've got, there's 2 colours which seals for which I've had for years, and I can't. You look around now, and you don't get quite the same. There's like there's a deep claret, and there's an Invicta yellow. Well, years ago, you'd had this, like, I wouldn't say rusty, but there's a tinge to that yellow, you know?
Yeah, very interesting stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's one thing that we mustn't lose, you know.
No.
This is very important that people continue to do this kind of stuff and not just go down the tinsel. And, you know, when I see these blobs and things that they tie these days, and I'm thinking to myself, what on earth is that?
I wouldn't even put them on a tree.
Well, well, I wouldn't say that. There's people doing very well out of them now.
Yeah, they catch.
We don't really know what goes on down there. I'd have to be a fish for a month to let you know.
But going back to like the materials for dyeing, I remember years ago, I went to Davy Wotton's house in Cwmbran.
Yeah.
It does SLF, you know.
That's right, yeah.
And this one day I was there when it was kitchen, and in the kitchen was the biggest cauldron you've ever seen. You know, it was incredible. It was like a massive dustbin on the stove.
Yeah.
And he had this big spoon then, just spooning this thing around. I said, what the hell you got? I thought he was cooking.
Yeah, yeah.
And I looked over, and it looked like black wool.
Yeah.
Basically, it's the start of SLF.
There you go, look. Yeah.
And he was having it, buying it in, and then he was cutting it up. But
I speak to Davey on FaceTime now and again.
Yeah.
I do, yeah.
Well, I didn't realise there's no, because I think I spoke to him last, and he said, and he sent me a picture of 2 lovely browns he took guys out.
Yes, he
guiding.
does, yeah.
And I said, haven't you got a close season there? He said, no close season there. I didn't realise that. Good fly tire.
A great fly tire, yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Again, attention to detail, see.
Yeah.
That's what it is, attention to detail. Very precise, like.
Yeah.
And when you tie a fly, you know, if you're going to tie half a dozen, count the turns. And then you get every one of them the same.
So you actually retired early from the police, didn't you? Because I read in your book, you had heart trouble, was it?
I had a heart attack back in 94. And I went through different processes, but they didn't actually do anything. I just sort of couldn't go upstairs to start with, you know, it was that bad. And I come round, I started walking again and things, and I decided, well, I don't know how long I got, so I'm going to give up. And that's what I did, and I went fishing, and I thought to myself, what the hell am I going to do now, like? But I was still fishing, of course, in the Rivers team at the time. And I went and decided to run a business coaching. And I went to Lillishall with First for Sports and eventually started delivering the level 2 certificate in coaching angling. And then, of course, I was actually tying flies and things, demonstrating that around different places and for the Salmon and Trout Association. And I remember the Apguy lads looking at me casting and thinking, oh my God, you've got to bloody well do something about your casting. Well, I'd won 2 international championships, so I wasn't that bad. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
But you know, there's one thing that I need to say here. There are casters that go fishing, and there are fishermen that can cast, and they're two different animals. They really are.
Yeah.
You get that?
Yeah.
And I, of course, am a fisherman, an angler that catch fish, and I can cast. But I had to have lessons to start with. Nobody can actually teach you how to cast. They can only tell you where you're going wrong. That part of learning is within yourself. And if you can get the right messages across to whoever comes for a lesson, then they will enhance themselves bit by bit. And I remember before I got my qualifications, in the field in front of the house at home, with a rod, 2-3 hours a day, 4 or 5 months, never failed. Rain. And then I learned how the rod really works. It's all to do with repetition and all kinds of factors in it, like. And then, of course, after this, getting the qualifications, I wanted to help other people achieve.
Was it double-handed as well, or was it just the single-handed you were doing?
To start with, I did the fly tying and the single-handed. And then the following year, I went in and I got the double-handed too. Yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it very much. And no, I really enjoyed everything that I've done on that front. And then, of course...
Oh, that's up guy then, or was you got to the level?
Yes, I got that, yeah. And then I become, as I said, a coach tutor. So I was doing both of them, first for sports and working for Gaia. I become secretary for a while. And then I was the chairman of the Standards and Practices Committee.
Did you miss the competition fishing then?
Now, I haven't missed it. To be honest with you, as if I've grown away from it. But as I say, when I'd finished doing the competitive side on the fishing, I started with the dogs, with the gun dogs, didn't I?
Right.
And I achieved with that too quite well, really. And after that, of course, everything else is history, isn't it?
You used to do trips as well, didn't you, to Ireland?
I used to do, yes, I used to hire a minibus in Holyhead and got a number of people coming across there to me. Take the two back seats out, put all the tackle in, and away to go. Yeah. And I stayed with Frank and Maura Riley at Inishkira Lodge, I think it was called. And they looked after us very well, a number of years. And all different groups of people, you know, coming. I think one fella came from, a doctor, I think he was, came from Canada, met me just outside Dublin. Came across with me, had a great time, yeah. I remember him saying, when the breakfast was put on the table, there's a heart attack on a plate.
Well, for 2 years I lived over there. And then when I was there, I used to take people out guiding.
Yeah.
As a boatman. And sometimes you take families out, you know, they come from like Denmark or America or whatever. And they didn't really mind if they caught a fish or not. But I think the whole thing with the Irish thing is stopping for lunch as well, on and making a fire. And that was everything. Yes. They loved that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
we take it for granted, but it's like, it does. Lighting a fire out on the lake, it like feeds your soul as well, especially on a wet day, doesn't it?
You're saying feed your soul. You're right, you see. There again, looking at the police service and looking what I did with the fishing, I had a balance. It's feeding the soul, isn't it? There was a balance. It helped me all the way through my career, like.
Yeah.
Magical stuff, this fishing, you know.
I know. So where do you see yourself now? Will you be doing any fishing, do you think, next year?
I hope so. I wouldn't mind going back up to Orkney to fish Lough Harry again, you know, just once more. Yeah, Scotland. The picture on the front of me book, The Angle of the Cast, that one is Loch Watton. That's a brownie from Loch Watton, that one.
So are there any places on your bucket list? I know you've been to, I think in the book I saw you went to Cuba? Or Bonefish. You got Bonefish somewhere, didn't you?
In the Bahamas.
Bahamas?
Yeah. We stayed at the Peace and Plenty in the Bahamas. I remember arriving there, going into the front door, and it opened out, and there was like lots of chalets going down, and a swimming pool in the middle. And then you step down onto the beach. So I went onto the beach, and I walked 20 yards to the edge of the water and stopped. And there it was, fins bristling away, a bonefish not far away from me. And it took off, of course, and I went back, and Ceri Morgan was with me, Ceri from Swansea.
Right.
He was actually the captain of the Rivers team when I won the international on the Tweed. Ceri Morgan was a very good friend. And Ceri was with me, and I went back, and we were all excited, told him about this. And out in the bay, just in front, there was a mud, what we call a mud, where these bonefish are digging for the crabs. And I got the rod straight out, bang, second cast, fish.
Wow.
We had a great time. I think I had 19 fish one day. Unbelievable fishing, like.
Yeah. It's something I've never thought of doing. It's quite popular, mind, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know?
But the Welsh bonefish are better.
The Welsh bonefish?
Yeah.
Well, but the mullet?
The mullet, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Do you get much mullet up this neck of the
We
woods
do.
then?
Oh, there's plenty.
Is there?
Yeah, around Port Maddock and the mouth of the Dwyfor here. Yeah, fantastic fishing.
What sort of size are you getting them there then?
3-4 pound, you know.
Is there?
Yeah, well, there's some very big fish come past, but you can't catch them, like.
Do you
I've
get
tried.
Do you get the bass up here?
Yes.
That's something I've started doing this year with the bass. I've had a few up to 4. Nothing bigger as yet.
Yeah. Well, a nice fish.
Yeah.
Great eating.
I was fishing down by Pembroke back a few years ago, and I had one about 2.5 pound, and we ate it straight away. We had a barbecue and we ate it.
Lovely.
Well, I wasn't impressed.
Oh, well.
But after saying that, I mentioned this on the podcast with Vaughan Thomas. He's a guide down there, and he said the same. He said they are lovely, but the next day he was saying, more sea fish. Next day he was saying. So maybe I'll give it another try next time. Maybe I'll just tap one on the head and then try it the following day.
Yeah. I make pate with it.
Do you?
I do, yeah.
Do you smoke them, or just as they are?
I smoke salmon.
You've had some sea trout over the years with the Dwyfor, yeah, I bet.
Yes, I have. And the dovey. Oh, the dovey is
Yeah.
phenomenal, like. I
Yeah.
think the best sea trout I had was 12 pound.
Was it?
It was a good fish, like.
On the fly?
Yes. Oh, it's middle of the night.
Wow.
He left the pool, down it went, and I thought, oh, it's come off. Oh. So I winding it was backing and everything gone. Of course, I started winding back, and then all of a sudden I thought, why is this line going up the river? And the fish had come back, hadn't he? That's why it had gone slack, and he'd come back into the pool and gone up river. Yeah. So,
Did you used to do a lot of that, the nighttime fishing?
I did often.
I think one of the best sea trouts I had, it was caught in a day. We went to Iceland, and it was £10. Bang on £10.
Good fish.
That was a lovely fish.
Yeah, tremendous.
Iceland, that's a different place altogether. It's like there's more fish than water up there.
Yeah.
And I had the £10 sea trout this one day, and the second day we got up 8 o'clock in the morning to fish this other river. It's called a Tungaflut. And have you been to Iceland?
No.
Ah.
Lapland I've been.
Have you?
Yeah.
But we went onto this bridge, and he said, Ollie, his name was, the guide, he said, and he was early, but like I said, about 8:30 we got at the bridge, looked over one side, and it was a nice fish, about 3-4 pound, salmon.
Yeah.
Real slick, And then I said, oh, should I go down? No, he said, we'll have a look at the other side. So he crept over the other side of the bridge, and there was this double figure salmon then, And he said, well, forget that other one now. So I went down the one side, and he was my eyes. He was on top of the bridge looking down, and he could tell where my line was going.
That's right.
So he cast my line, and he was arcing around like a Jurym going, he's coming. No, he's turned away. He said, just another foot or so. So I just pulled another foot off the line, cast out, and the arc came round, and he said, it's coming. And as he said he's taking it, the line went, and I had it. And I played that fish then for about good 20 minutes, maybe half hour. And it's £14 it was.
Lovely fish.
Lovely. But it was good teamwork, Another place I'd like to go back to sometime.
I've had a couple over 25.
Have you?
Aye.
On the fly?
Yeah. Yes.
On the Welsh rivers?
I had one 28.5 on the D when we were fishing for broodstock. was a cockfish it was. I'll never forget it.
For stripping.
Yes, and we stripped it and then put it back in the river. And I think it was caught again the following year. The other one, over 25, was on the Tweed in Scotland. I got an invite there to fish one of the beats, one of the great beats down, I can't remember what it was called. And I had 6 fish that day, 6 salmon on a fly. And
Jeez.
one was over 25, and my name is up in the shed. Everything that's over 25 is put up, painted up on the wall.
Is there?
On a chart, yeah, it is. Yeah.
There's not many people can say they've had 6 salmon in a day. Not now, anyway.
Yeah, I've had that on the D, on the Welsh D.
Did you?
Oh, yes. The day that I did I've done a DVD on salmon fishing. Salmon and Fly is called. And I had 3 fish that day. 3 salmon and a fly that
Did
day.
you?
Yeah.
You said you did a DVD. You actually did a lot of features over the years, haven't you? And articles for different magazines.
I did, yes. Fly fishing, fly tying. It started with trout fishermen with lure flash doing the fly dressing competition, fly tying competition. It was great getting all the flies coming in and judging them and looking at everything, you know. And then I developed from that to fly fishing, fly tying, and wrote quite a lot of articles for them. Trout and salmon, I wrote an article for them too. A number of things like that have happened over the years.
I notice you keep everything very organised. You got 2 albums here with practically every article
all
you've
my
done.
articles are in them. Yeah. Every one of them I actually bought by the magazine. Of course, I'll get the magazine and then take it out and put it in the folder.
Yeah.
And they keep better that way.
So you've got the few fly boxes there. I see. You never short of flies.
No. There's a collection there. Some of them are 40, 50-year-old, aren't they?
Are they?
Oh, you're bound to be.
Yeah.
But I've been very careful to keep everything, and I like looking at them now and again.
Yeah.
They're always there handy, aren't they?
Yeah.
I want one. I've got one, haven't I?
Yeah. It's nice to keep the flies. Over the years, I've done exactly the same. You've got the flies in the frames with an actual fish or the photograph.
Oh, yeah.
I was fishing Loch Melvin once, and in fact, the gilly, it was a practice day. The gilly was a garter over there.
Yeah.
And we were coming off to this one point now, it was called Ross Point. And he said, this is a good spot now for the odd salmon. So as my line landed, I give one pull, bang, I was in. And it was £7 it was.
Nice fish.
But what I've done, I've got the photograph of the fish.
Yeah.
And I've got the little green Peter it was in the frame with it. Like, you know.
Yeah. I remember a couple of stories from Ireland. I remember fishing a police national championship in Northern Ireland. And I remember being out in a lake there on a boat and looking around, and there were army personnel all around the lake with machine guns. Like, I tell you one thing, I didn't fish well that day.
What lake was that?
I don't know, I can't remember.
Yeah.
But it was somewhere in Londonderry, around about that area. Yeah. And I remember one thing, we were fishing in another lake, and it's the first one that I know of. Brian Williams from Gwent caught an eel on a fly in the match. Yeah, a big eel. Like. Yeah, there's quite a few stories about eels flying around, of course.
I've never caught an eel. I've caught some strange things. I tell you what I did have, which was unexpected. I fished Llynfyrnwy.
Yes.
Oh, about a few years, 4 or 5 years ago. And I hooked this fish in the sides. We were drifting on a boat.
Chub.
Yeah, that was it. The
nice
landlocked chub, innit?
Oh, yeah, some nice chub there.
Yeah. Oh, he was good 3 or 4 pound.
I remember being in Ireland with my dad after the international match on Lough Con, and my father used one of these automatic Mitchell reels, you know, with a lever on the front.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, he hooked this salmon, and away this fish went, and he was taking all the line off the reel, back and two, and the gilly nearly fell out of the boat, a really old chap, and nearly fell out of the boat trying to net it. So I took the net off him, and he sat down, and anyway, I netted this fish, and just before I netted it, he'd run out of tension in the wheel.
Yeah.
So, you know, in the spool, there were holes, weren't there?
Yeah.
And he actually put his finger in the hole and wound a little bit of line in so that I could net the fish. And the gilly said, "Oh, be Jesus," he said, fancy coming to fish in Ireland all that way from Wales with no handle on the reel. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, they do come up with some one-liners, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Fantastic. Like, yeah.
I remember we were fishing on Cornwall one day, and I was in the boat with he's a butcher from Cong, Thomas Ryan. He was in the middle. I was on the bow, and my mate then Andrew was on the engine, and we were drifting down past this island cord, and it was a beautiful summer's evening, and a nice little ripple, and it was the odd fish rising, and we just drifting down now, and all of a sudden there was an almighty splash behind the boat, right? So you can imagine now, the three of us jumped out of our skin. The three of us looked behind. So I said, "Was that a salmon?" And he looked at me, he said, "It was either that or someone just fell out of a plane," he said.
Yes.
Special place.
I remember a story too from, I think from Lough Curan. One of the boatsmen there had taken this German out fishing. And of course in Curan they trawl for the salmon, don't they?
Yes.
And they trawl that like, and anyway, this German didn't want to trawl. He wanted to sit on the bank with a worm. And anyway, this gilly went off by himself trawling and come back to meet him, make him his lunch. And he said, "Oh, look, big eel. And he caught this eel. And he had this eel writhing, massive eel, writhing in a plastic bag. And the gilly thought, "Oh, my God, I can't take that back to the pier. What will they say to me like?" Anyway, off he went again, trawling, hoping for a salmon in the afternoon. Nothing. Came back, picked the German up, and he said, "Look, 2 big eels." And he had 2 eels in this bag. Anyway, the German sat in the front of the boat. He opened up the engine, of course, and the bag slipped down towards him. And he opened it up a bit further. The bag came to him, and the 2 eels went over the side, back into the lake. And when he got to the pier, this German stood up, and he was saying to his wife, who was come to pick him up, "2 big eels, beautiful eating. And he picked the bag up, and there was no eels in it, was there? "Oh," he said, "where's the eels? And the boatsman lifted the floorboards up and everything, and he was looking everywhere. And he was like, "Oh, be Jesus," he said, "they must have eaten one another." But that's the one-liners that you get there, isn't it?
I know.
I tell you, another area that I fished was the Liffey. That was fantastic for wild brown trout, you know.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I fished that
John
Higgins.
John Higgins, yeah.
I used to take parties across there to fish too, on the river.
Did you?
Aye, I got to know them very well. It was fantastic fishing the Liffey, like.
Yeah, I had one day with John, and we had, I don't know how many fish. And the method we were using, we were just wading into the river, walking up.
Yeah.
With a sight indicator.
Oh, yes,
and then
right.
like little bead gold heads.
That's it.
And just bringing the slack in and seeing the sight bob go down.
Good. That's right, yeah.
And I couldn't believe the size. They were all £1.5.
They are lovely fish, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see the odd salmon turn as well sometimes. But I think it's so close to Dublin, but you could have been anywhere. The countryside there is beautiful.
It is fantastic. Racehorse country, you see.
Yeah. There were some money houses around there.
Yes, but it's racehorse country, and you think back, all these racehorses and the farms and things.
Kildare.
It's all fenced off 20 yards back from the river.
All right, yeah.
To stop these racehorses getting injured and things.
I got you.
So it's all wild.
Yeah. Did you say you fished sealing?
Yes, I fished sealing year before last. I went across 3 days there. Didn't catch a thing.
Yeah, it's a tough.
But it was a tough place. But I saw a few fish showing. But there was frost that night, and it was a little bit too early. I shouldn't have gone that time. But there you go. I just wanted to go, and that's it.
Yeah.
One of those things, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's fantastic fishing in Ireland. Great fishing. And Corrib especially. I know how you love it and why. I can tell because, you know.
Yeah, it's a hard place to leave.
Oh, it is. A tremendous place, yeah.
Well, I've enjoyed our chat, and I want to see you tie some flies now, and then maybe have a rummage round to have a look at your tackle as well. There's one question I ask everyone.
Yes.
You know what's coming up. where would you want to be to make your last cast?
Can I have two choices?
Go on then.
In a bottle of blackberry whiskey or in a bottle of blackberry gin? I want to drink, not fish.
Well, that's something I wasn't expecting.
Well, there you go. I've done it all, and I'm proud of what I've achieved. Don't get me wrong, I am proud of what I've achieved. But I also like the fact that I've been able to pass all this information on, so that it makes it easier for the people that are coming into the sport, to achieve. That's what it's about.
Well, let's hope we'll have a couple of days next year. If restrictions allow, perhaps I'll come up and join you and have a
Absolutely.
day on the river. That'd be nice. Or a
Yes,
couple
it
of
would be
hours on a
nice.
boat somewhere.
Yeah, it'd be nice, yeah.
Yeah,
You can show me how to catch these big ferox trout.
I'm on the case. Yeah.
I'll drink a bottle of whiskey and you can fish for the ferox.
Just get ready with the net. Well, thanks again.
Right, so.
Diolch yn fawr, Gwilym. If this is your first time tuning in, make sure you catch all future episodes by clicking subscribe via the links on my website, castingwithcerijones.com, or via iTunes or your favourite podcatcher. If you like what you've heard on this episode, feel free to drop me a line via my website. Tell me what you've enjoyed, ask a question, or better yet, tell me what you want to hear more of in the future. And if you're looking for additional tips, tackle reviews or venue information, or just want to see what's been hitting the back of my net lately, search up Casting with Ceri Jones on Facebook or follow me on Instagram. And if you still want more, I'm regularly uploading video content onto the Casting with Ceri Jones YouTube channel, so just check that out and subscribe over there too. Wherever you follow, subscribe, comment or message, I look forward to catching up soon for a good fishing chat. Well, I think that's all for now. So until next time, tight lines and don't strike too soon.